Hello, my name is Helen Keene. I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I am recovering from addiction to alcohol and many other things. I go to Celebrate Recovery in Ontario, Canada, and I wanted to share a few things with you. Primarily, 7 years ago, I wanted to write a book. And after quite a bit of soul searching, I decided that was not the thing that I was meant to do. So instead, I am going to post my journey, and hopefully it will help somebody who has had similar difficulties in their life. And I don't want this to be a video about me. What I desire, what I want is that you will see the Holy Spirit speaking through me. So I want to diminish and have Him be the focus of what I do. So, in 1948, I was born into a Mennonite family. My parents were both born in Russia. They lived through the Russian Revolution, and they immigrated to Canada after the Russian Revolution was over. They met here in Canada and raised 6 children. I was the youngest of those 6. I have gone back to the root of where my problems started, and I guess it was when I was about 2 years old. My sister Margaret contracted leukemia, and up until that point I was pampered and loved, and I was talkative and precocious and attention seeking even then. So I did not like to be ignored. I did not like to be pushed aside. I wanted to be the center of attention. So after my sister Margaret passed away, everything changed. My mom never recovered from her grief. And my sister Kathy, not that she ever intended to, it wasn't consciously done, but to understand, our family was set up like my 2 brothers were 18 months apart, my sister Kathy and Margaret were 18 months apart, and then my brother John and I were 18 months apart. So my sister Kathy lost her soulmate, her playmate, and there I was. So she found it very hard to connect to me. She was 8 years older than me. And the Lord has really shown me her grief as well throughout the years. And it took me a long, long time to get to this point where I understand what grief really is. And I've had to go through a process of forgiving them and me, and it's been a very prolonged and painful journey. I believe that's probably when my borderline personality started. I was sent to my aunt and uncle's every summer. It was my mother's way of coping. It was her way of trying to make sure that I was going to get some kind of a stability in my years of growing. I think my problems really began when I went to school, when I was when I was in grade 2. A report card got sent home, and it said, Helen could do much better if she didn't talk so much. Well, that became my burden, the thorn in my side for the rest of my life, because I was always told to be quiet I wasn't allowed to express myself or to vocalize my ups and downs or anything like that. I was just always told to be quiet. So what happened after that was I was always the type of child who needed instruction. I needed to know what I was doing. I was always the one going up to the teacher's desk saying, can you please explain this to me? Can you please let me know what I'm supposed to do? Because once I knew what I was doing, I was okay. I was fine. But it took a while for me to get it. And so when I was doing my homework, I had 3 other siblings, and none of them offered to help me. So my father tried. My father was, he was a genius, really. He was so clever, but had very limited education because of living in Russia. So I was very slow at things sinking in. So he would say to me, how can you be so stupid? The answer's right there. Why can't you see it? He had very little patience with me, very little compassion for me. He was very pragmatic, very, everything was black and white. There was no room for understanding or leniency. So anyway, I'd run upstairs in tears. The next day I'd go to school. My homework wasn't done. And I was the kid that stood out in the hallway waiting for the leather strap 2 or 3 times a week. And I began getting very, very, very scared to go to school. I tried everything, and I think that's when self-harm really started. I even tried to drink iodine once, and I would take my mother's pills. I would do anything to make myself sick enough to stay home from school. I would put the thermometer on the oil stove. It would go up to 103. I'd shake it down to 101 because 103 meant hospital or doctor, and 101 was just you weren't feeling well, you were sick. So that lasted until my brother Leo discovered what I was doing, told my mom and dad, and then after that, I would go to the doctors, and if the doctor said I was sick, then I could stay home. And I became a proficient actress. And I could have won an Academy Award for this performance, but I faked appendicitis, and I went to the doctors. I was admitted to the hospital at 2, and by 6 I was in surgery. And they took out a perfectly healthy appendix. In those days, they didn't do ultrasounds, they didn't do blood work per se, and so I was very, very, I needed a lot of help. Emotionally, I was not well, and I think I'm going to leave off for this segment, and I'll post again. Thank you for listening.